Hi, my name is Stacy, and this is Sigo Podcast.
This is my first podcast appearance ever. So
Yeah, you ready?
What?
I mean, you're used to the camera though, so it's all good.
I am a writer. I do not do on camera stuff like ever.
Yeah, I saw you getting interviewed. Stop fronting.
Oh yeah, that one interview that was an experience.
Yeah. All right, Stacy, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. Um, yeah, I was the reason I reached out to you is because I see you're making big moves as a journalist. Always knew always knew that was coming. Saw that you recently got an award and you got interviewed for one of the pieces you wrote. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about that and also just, dive into your world as a journalist right now because it's tough for journalists just in general with everything going on. And yeah, I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, of course, me too. There's definitely a lot going on in the world of journalism and especially like Black journalists. So happy to share.
Thank you. Thank you. Start off, how's your week been?
My week has been pretty good. I actually did a little bit of self care yesterday. Did some like artsy shit, and then I did some laundry that I've been meaning to do. Um, Published a Fourth of July story that was interesting. But yeah, my week's been pretty good. How about yours?
Yeah, my week has been great. I've been basically trying to set up my camera and my mic because before the way I did the podcast was I screen recorded the Zoom because when the Zoom converts, it's trash. The quality is trash. So I use a screen recorder on my Mac, and I use the Mac microphone and to get the my audio, and that
Yeah.
was great. But my Mac runs like the fan runs high very easily. So yeah, it would catch on and it would make editing audio horrible. So I was like, all right, I need a better system and a better camera because I use my webcam as a phone. Now I'm using my camera. There's like a huge difference. So
A microphone and everything, or are you using the audio from your camera?
right now I'm using a Ceramonic microphone.
Okay, fancy.
We trying. We gotta do stuff high quality. And yeah, I had to figure out how to basically connect that to my Mac. Once I did that, I was like, great, I got the mic down, now the actual camera, and I did that. So that took an actual week because every time I made some progress, I was like, all right, that's enough for today. That took me like 3 hours and mad YouTube videos to figure out. So I take a break. So I'm happy. My week's been productive.
I'm glad you've been upgrading your stuff as you go. You've been so consistent about the podcast.
Yeah, I try. I try. I've not as consistent because I have like so many episodes that I didn't edit yet, and I'm still making new ones. But procrastination is it's a lifelong battle. I feel like.
How many do you have in the works?
Okay, I talked to Joanne a couple days ago. I talked to Taylor last week, and is that all? Oh, and I talked to David. So I have three
Wow.
sitting. And I'm talking to you today, and I'm talking to Joaquim later today.
God damn, you're really working.
I usually don't have two in a day, but it just worked out like that. But yeah. So tell me a little bit about your journalism. What made you, want to be a journalist? Like when did you first realize that you wanted to be
So I initially in like the fifth grade, I'm not even sure why, but I wanted to be like a broadcast journalist, and I was on my elementary school's TV station, and I was low key like kind of bad at it. Like I would just start giggling in the middle. But ever since then, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be like a broadcast reporter. I'm gonna be on TV and everything. And then for some reason, there was a little bit of time where for 2 years I wanted to do psychology, and then I realized that you need science for that, and I was like, fuck no. Like my science teacher used to flame me and everything because like I was so bad. So yeah, no, it was a wrap for that. So I was back to journalism, and I was like, this is the only thing that I can do. Like I'm a decent enough writer. I'm good. I'm a good writer. And I can ask people questions literally all day. So that was like kind of my path into it, and especially seeing like the way that coverage is right now, and just like has always been, like the industry needs me and needs people like me. They need like Black women. They need people who are gonna push them to cover our communities in a way that is way more like just a 360 view rather than 360, whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just a better view, um that really gets to like who we are rather than just showing like crime and violence. So yeah, that's why I got into it. Like the industry needs me and the rest of the people like me.
Okay, that's dope. You know, it's nice because like growing up, like when I was in the fifth grade, I had like 50 things I wanted to be in the course of my childhood. Like at first, I was like, all right, I want to be a pastor, like my dad,
Wow.
because because my dad's he's a pastor, so I grew up in the church. Still, I'm in the church. So as a kid, I was like aspiring to be like him because he was very good at public speaking. He met like politicians. He was like in the radio. So I was like, and everyone looked up to my dad because he has like great leadership qualities. So I was like, wow, that's the way for me. But then I quickly realized that I can be like my dad, but I don't have to be my dad in terms
Yeah.
of doing exactly right, doing exactly what he wants to do. Um, so after that, I think I wanted to be like an astronaut and a cop at some point. Um, then finally, I was like, I want to be a business person, like a businessman. Like I feel like everybody has that. Then I realized you could be a business person with anything, really. So
With your podcast.
yeah, exactly. So I still don't know what I want to do or to be, but I just know that I don't want to do one thing. I want to have several things to do. I met this teacher once, like he really inspired me. Forgot his name though, which sucks. But
If you're out there, teacher, this one's for you.
yeah, shout out to that teacher. But he was like in his 50s, and he was an English teacher, and he was just telling us these life stories, and he had so many experiences with like so many different types of jobs. Like he worked construction, he was a professor, he was an engineer, like he did something in nursing at some point, and he traveled all over the world. And I realized that wow, like I don't have to constrain myself to one thing, even though that's the norm. You can do really anything you want.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm glad to see you like taking on these multiple paths.
Yeah, for sure. And that really this quarantine pandemic situation, that's what
Yeah.
inspired me to really get started on, all right, let me actually do what I want as hobbies, like YouTube and things like that. How
Are you on YouTube aside from like the podcast, or what's
yeah,
your
yeah. I have a I have a second channel which I did a little before the podcast. It's a reaction channel and
What do you react to?
music, any type of music, right? So I'm gonna tell you my thought process. I was like, all right, I want to have a YouTube channel. I knew that. So I just didn't know what niche to do. And niches are very important. So I was like, all right, I can't decide. Let me just talk. So I decided like do a blog thing. And I did a piece on like a movie that I thought was racist. And that was good. I was like, the video came out nice. I was like, damn, I'm kind of good at this. Put it out on Instagram. People were like commenting on it, on my opinions, because I was just talking about racial stuff. And I was like, all right, this is great. That was a lot of work though. Like I had to watch a whole movie, I had to think about it, I had to remember the characters' names, and I'm terrible with names. So I was like, okay, I don't want to do that much work just for one video. So I was like, all right, reaction videos makes sense. It's pretty easy. You just react. So I did some music, and then I got really big off K-pop reactions. Like I
You were doing K-pop reactions? I could not envision you listening to K-pop.
Yo, I'm an open person, but I never dived into K-pop just because, right? So I listened to like a song and I was like, okay, I appreciate a lot of things in the song. Like K-pop is like they have really good production all the time.
Yeah.
And Yeah, really good production all the time. And like if you find your group or artist that you like, music is music. You like music no matter what. So once I had that open mind and I did that review, I was like, damn, a lot of people really I underestimated. I feel like K-pop is the biggest, genre of music
So
in the
K-pop
world.
stand for ginormous. Like,
Ginormous. So I was like, all right, I should listen to more K-pop reactions, just strategically speaking, and also I don't mind it. Like I don't hate the music. I don't love every song, but the songs I like, I like. So I did that a lot, but I did all music. It's just that K-pop gets the most views for now. And in like a month, I did it like a month. I did it for like 2 weeks straight, actually, 2 weeks straight of videos. Then I stopped because I got lazy. But
are you
during,
getting
yeah, I hopped back into it like a couple of days ago. But I did 2 weeks and I grew up to like, let's say I had 90 subscribers when I stopped and like what 5,000 views. So and I had maybe
That's a
15
lot for me.
15 videos. So during that 2 weeks that I stopped, I grew up to like 150 subscribers and like 15, 25,000 views. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm still growing. It's crazy. Like, and I was like, okay, I have to pay more attention to this because my plan was to grow it and just use it as another platform to promote my stuff eventually.
Yeah.
So right now I'm at like 247 subscribers and I think I just hit 40,000 views. So that channel's doing good.
You said 40,000?
Views, yeah.
Wow, that's really smart to do because, like, really, especially now, like, being any type of influencer, like, it's not just like, oh, I put out these videos, I do this podcast. It's like, I have a connection with this audience, and this audience, they fuck with me, and other things that I do, like, they'll, like, migrate over to there. So that's, like, super smart to do.
Yeah, that's basically the whole plan because just because I've been thinking a lot, post or adulting or whatever. Like, like in college, it's fun to be like, all right, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But like once you're out, you actually gotta be realistic about things. I was just talking to Dave about this. So I was like, realistically speaking, from a disproportionate standpoint that I am, how am I gonna get myself, to the next level, and how can I give myself the best tools to be successful? Because I need all the tools I can get as a person of color. So I was like, all right, be an influencer. Be an influencer, create a platform of your own community. So that's what I'm doing with this podcast. Networking with different people, and stuff like that. I'm not really, my priority isn't really growth here. It's just networking because
Yeah.
podcasts are tough. But with the reaction channel, it's grow it as big as possible, and then use that just to sell, promote, etc. So yeah, I recommend everyone to to have a YouTube channel or
Man,
more.
I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel since I was like 12. And when I like cut off my hair, I like filmed it. I was like, yeah, like this is gonna be the first
Yeah,
video on my channel. That footage is still sitting on my phone. Um, and I have since done like dyed it, done all these things. 'Cause I've always been like very into hair. Um, so yeah, I gotta get like you. You're out here grinding.
yeah, you should like even like with that video of you cutting your hair. I was gonna ask about that, so it's perfect segue. You're already perfect guest can provide you the best segues. But but yeah, I recommend it. Just start a YouTube channel, even if you don't know exactly what you're gonna talk about. You can talk about
Yeah.
journalism, or if you can't get political as a
It's
journalist.
a niche. Like you're right
Yeah,
about me.
yeah, just find your niche, and it's usually in what you love. Like I love music, or another reason I started a reaction channel was because I lost touch with my love for music because I didn't actively listen to music for a long time, like couple months, just because I was tired of it.
That's
And
literally where I'm at right now. Like I haven't been listening to music all of quarantine.
yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. At first it was tough, but now it's like I'm used to it, and I feel like with music, it brings something out of you, just in general. So I wanted to try that. But yeah, why did you decide to cut the hair? I love the look, by the way.
Thank you. Yo, I just did the orange like 2 days ago, and I am super fucking with it. Like I feel like a cartoon character.
I love it. Expression is beautiful.
But yeah, so my hair was like super fucking long. It was like down to like here, like bra strap length. It was like the longest it's ever been curly. And like you know me, like I've always had my hair like big and curly.
Yeah.
But like I was getting so sick of like dealing with it because like when it's like up to here, like stretched out, like okay, it'll take me maybe an hour or two on wash day. When it's down to here, bro, like it was 5 hours every weekend, and like I don't know, like my hair is something that like it doesn't define me, but it does like have such like an influence on like who I am and like how I view myself. But when it gets to the point where you're not like enjoying doing your hair, like yeah, of course there's gonna be like weeks where you're like fuck this, like I don't wanna wash and detangle. But when that's like every single week and you're like really sick of it, then like I don't know, like it just felt like I needed to change. And originally I had wanted to dye it orange, and I was in Brazil literally like 2 weeks before quarantine and all that happened, and I almost got stuck in Brazil, but that's like another story. But I like went and got my hair dyed, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be the big change. It turned out not orange. It turned out not the right color. So I was like, fuck it. Like when I get back to the US, I'm gonna do something drastic. I cut bangs, still didn't like it. And I was like, okay, I'm actually gonna commit to shaving it all off. And I was super nervous because I did this once in high school. And I hated it. I was like, damn, my head is so small and my shoulders are mad broad. Like shout out to girls with broad shoulders. But I was like, whatever, like we're in quarantine. It's gonna grow back. Like my colleagues aren't gonna see me be ugly if I end up ugly. And then I was also like, I'm cute in the face. Like everything will be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was what led up to it, and I like it, as you can obviously see.
Okay. Did you freak out at any point where you're like, oh shit?
Okay, so my boyfriend helped me cut it, and I put it in like two pigtails so that we could just like he had just gotten clippers because like he's learning how to fade his hair. I gave him a fade, and when I tell you it, I fucked that shit up. Like, oh my god. Anyways, so I had it in two pigtails, and he like has the clippers, and he like cuts the whole thing off. But
Yeah.
because it was like in a ponytail, it like ended up cutting like this, and like I didn't want it to be like skinhead short. Like I just wanted it to be like short, like buzz cut. And I think I wanted him to like give me a fade or something, so it was like a little bit too short. And that was the only thing that I was like, man, fuck. But yeah, aside from that, it was just like a tad shorter than I wanted, but the rest of it was good. And it felt so weird, like to go from like a mountain of hair to just like being able to like feel your scalp, and like when you shower, you're like actually showering all the skin on your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. I could definitely relate. You can't tell, but my hair's like,
I was about to ask you, like, what's going on with your hair? Like, I feel like you have wanted to do like different things with it, like over the course of the year. So, like, what's popping up with your hair?
I don't know. I don't know. Like for a while, I was like, all right, I'm happy with box braids, and that was great. The box braid look is great. Put the hair back, look professional when I want to. But now I'm like where you are. I'm basically getting tired. I don't know what to do with it anymore. I'm like, I did twists, I did box braids, I tried cornrows. I mean, I haven't really committed to cornrows. I did it like one time. I didn't like how it looked, so I was like, all right, I don't like that.
Does your mom or your sister or dad, like, does anybody in your family know how to do it?
Cornrows. I'm gonna ask my mom if she knows how to do it today, just to see if like, is this the next? But if that's not it, I decided that I think I want to cut my hair, right, and get like a platinum blonde look, like have a little higher here and just fade it out and do a little.
Wow, do it, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would look great. It would look different, and just for the same reasons, like I feel like gotta express yourself. Can't take ourselves too seriously with everything. Like, oh, everybody has this color hair and this look, like it doesn't matter. I think that's where society's going more in terms of like not that looks don't matter. Yes, just accepting that and expressing yourself and
Get rid
not
of the
trying
like
to
respectability politics of it
yeah
all.
yeah not trying to confirm because I feel like standards of professionalism and
Hmm.
what's so right to wear and look like were confirmed for white people just
Yep.
and people of color struggle just dealing with their hair in terms of, oh, I gotta be in the office, I gotta have it permed, I gotta have it straightened, etc., etc. And thankfully in most places that's gone now, but
Hmm.
we're just evolving as a society.
Especially, I feel like the workforce is gonna look way different, like physically now, because like in quarantine, a ton of us are doing things to like our physical appearance that we never would have done before. Like, I would not have had like bright orange hair in the office. Like,
Yeah.
as cool as my office may be, like, I wouldn't have done that before. So, like, this really is such a great opportunity to just like play with what you want to look like and like experiment. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You're gonna look at yourself in the mirror for a few days or weeks and not like it. Like, at least no one else is looking at you. Like, that judgment and that fear is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
um
would you get waves if you cut it all off? Waves are bad hard, I've learned.
I don't know. Wave culture, it depends how hard it is. And it depends like what it adds to my look. Like if it adds something, sure, I'll contemplate it. But if not,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter really.
I'll warn you now, like the amount of brushing that you have to do, like I spent one day actually trying to get waves and I was just like, I'm sick and tired of this shit. Like I don't want to be brushing all day. Um
Yeah,
So
you just
you
gotta just gotta learn how to have it as a second touch. Just like yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. So back to journalism, right?
Mhm.
Um, can you tell us like exactly a little bit of like where you work and what you
Yes.
do or what
Yep.
fields you're in?
So
I work at the Texas Tribune and we are a nonprofit news outlet. So a little bit different than, traditional newspapers. We're only online. And luckily, I won't get too much into like the economics of journalism, but like a lot of newspapers, as you've probably seen, are like sinking and having to furlough people and lay people off and just like generally fucked. So with the nonprofit outlet, like we have multiple streams of income so that we're like mostly staying afloat. So that's where I work. And then I'm a breaking news reporter. It's my first like full-time job out of college. And like before the pandemic, I was doing like a ton of breaking news like throughout the week, and like we kind of switched to a new model. So I haven't been doing as much like breaking stuff. I've been able to do more like long-term stories and like things that I'm interested in. Um, so like lately, I've been doing a ton of Black stories, which like finally people care about like Black stories and like elevating those voices. And like it sucks that it is during a time where we are literally, well, not we because I'm not protesting, but like where our people are protesting and like fighting for their lives while they're literally fighting for their lives in a pandemic that's disproportionately killing them. But I've been trying to do more stories that are not just like, oh, Black people are protesting, here's the violence, here's this, here's that. It's more like I want to elevate who are the organizers, like who are the people doing the work, how are they feeling. I did a story about Juneteenth. Like I don't want it to just be, oh, here's Juneteenth, here's what happened. Like I want it to be, here is some Black joy in this very white paper. um, I did a story recently about Pride Month. Like, I don't want it to just be, oh, Pride is canceled and like people are sad. Like, Pride has always been, it's supposed to be like about liberation, and a ton of Black queer and Black trans people led it and have been so important to the movement, especially right now, and are finally like getting their voices heard. Like, those are the stories I want to do. Like, that's what I want to be contributing to like this mainstream media outlet and like to our communities. So that's what I've been working on, and it's a constant, struggle to like get stories approved sometimes. But yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, that's great. I'm happy that, you know, even though you're doing journalism and, you have to get these stories approved. You're
Yeah.
doing the stories that you want to do, which I think is
Exactly.
important, and just keeping the passion of being a journalist because it's hard.
Hmm.
So what's the process? I've always been curious of like, all right, of like, you have to do a story on
Yeah.
protesting. Like, what's the first step? Is it just research, or do you just like your camera crew all just hops out, walks in slow motion to the van, just drives?
So I do not have a crew. It is just me, myself, and I. Again, like I mean, I was on camera for like that one video about the project that I did, but aside from that, I'm usually like behind the scenes. Um, so the process of a story, like it can go like from the beginning, it can go like one of two ways. It's either I pitch something and my editor approves it and like I get the green light, or my editor is like, here's a story you have to do. And those are always the ones that you kind of like have to shape in order for them to like be what you want it to be, or like be what you think is going to be interesting. Cause like when you just get handed a story, it's never as exciting as when like you pitch it yourself. But anyway, so after that, like yeah, it's of course like what did I get assigned? I got assigned this like 4th of July story. And I was just like doing some research about um coronavirus and like how like people are gonna go out and celebrate. Like people were celebrating Memorial Day. Like how did that impact us? And then like yeah, so doing some research and then figuring out like I like as the person writing the story, I can't really say anything as Stacy. Like I'm never saying like rates increased and things are like getting worse in Texas. Like I cannot say that. I don't have the expertise. I also just I like when you're a journalist, you can't say anything. It's literally like who your sources are, what information you get from other people. So that's the second step, like putting out a ton of calls, sending out emails to PR people, to in this case like doctors, putting out. I've been trying to put out more calls on like Twitter to get like real people's voices in stories. So like I don't know if y'all ever see journalists asking like, hey, like if you do this or you know this, like DM me. Like we really like please DM us. Like we're dead ass. Like we will actually call you. We will actually use you in the story. So yeah, like that's kind of the process. It's literally like get the information, figure out who you need to call, put those calls out, wait for them to finally call you back, interview, and then once you interview, that's when you really like have a better sense of like what the story is going to be. Because like yeah, you're gonna go into a story kind of thinking like, oh, these are some things I need to ask, or like these are some things that are essential. But like your interviews are really gonna be what shape the story, because like you never know. Like maybe you're thinking one thing and then the experts tell you another thing, or like a common person or like a regular person tells you another thing. Like you have to like go with the flow. So that's kind of how that works.
Okay, that's interesting. How long does that take usually?
There are weeks or there are times where a story will take me. I did a story about policing across the state of Texas. That took a solid like week and a half, especially because like organizers are super busy, as like they should be. Like they're super busy doing stuff. Like they don't always have time to like talk to us.
Mhm.
So like that story, for example, took a week and a half. Excuse me. And then I had this 4th of July story that was assigned on I want to say Wednesday, and I turned it in Thursday afternoon. So that was a day and a half. So, and there are other stories if it's breaking news, where with breaking news, it's so different. It's like, okay, we hear about something that happened either through an official or like, well, yeah, often through an official. So like we'll hear about something that happened through an official or like a press release, and it's like this brand new thing, and oh my god, and literally with that, you have to like get it up within 5 minutes or like excuse me, as few minutes as you can. So that process is literally just like writing up what you know or confirming whatever it is that you think you know. And that can get up within like 5, 10, 15 minutes. Like if it's
Oh
15
wow.
minutes, the editor probably won't be too happy.
Yeah.
But that's like as soon as possible. And then once that initial news and those initial like 3 paragraphs are like up on the website, then you like start to put in like more background information, do this and that. But like you want to be the first. Like it's mad competitive out there.
Damn, that's dope. I was honestly expecting worse. I thought you were gonna say weeks. 2 months.
No, no. Like some like if you're doing a big investigation, then yeah, that will take a long time, especially if you have to like pull records. I don't know if y'all saw this, but the New York Times just did something about like black and brown deaths related to coronavirus. They had to sue the CDC to get that information. They had to sue the CDC to get that information. So obviously that didn't take like 2 days. Like that took the process of suing somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, so something like that, or like something where you need to like file an information request or do this and that, or like analyze data, like that could take like a month, that could take 2 months, that could take a year. Like yeah, but like my job, my like day-to-day stuff, especially because I'm like breaking news and like general assignment, like usually my time frame is between 5 minutes and 2 weeks. So yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting earlier that I was going to bring up, where you were speaking about like journalism and how, competitive it is, but how news companies are basically falling or crumbling.
Yes.
And I'm finding that, we've all noticed that really, I think, just throughout the time. So just like the mid 2000s of just news, where people consume the news and how people consume the news. It's really through social media.
Yes.
And I think,
Twitter.
I think a lot of journalists have, taken note of that and are prioritizing branding themselves as, a media person, because you don't really have to have a journalist degree to tell the news anymore. Like, there's like lots of YouTube influencers and just influencers in general who just do like a Trevor Noah type segment where they cover a bunch of different things. I think there's this famous guy on YouTube. I forget his name. I feel like his name is Philip, or something like that. But with that in mind, what do you see? Are you guys, your bosses, your editors, or do they have like a plan for this? Are they aware of it, or are they sort of like stuck with their hands in their pocket?
I think, especially where I am, they are very aware of like how people are consuming news. Like we are, like I said, like we don't do a print product. Like we are still like relatively new. We've been around for like 10 years. And like from the beginning, there has never been a print product. It's just online. It's super focused in like how are like we have an audience section, just like a lot of places now have, but like I think I'm like relatively new to the organization, but I think we've always had something like that. So like we are always thinking of how can we reach people? Are we reaching them through Twitter, Facebook, Reddit? There was a conversation about doing TikTok, which like our audience people ended up deciding like right now that's not like like that's not what we have the resources for. That's not where we want to like put our time at this moment. But like those are always things that are coming up and that we're like trying to figure out like how are we going to reach people, and especially how are we going to reach the people who don't read us and the people who the marginalized communities who like don't read us because like historically newspapers and like media outlets haven't covered them well. So that's something that like we're always talking about. And like just like what's her name, Millie Tran, our audience, like our head of audience, who's like this badass, she like put it very simply, like the way that we're supposed to like reach these audiences who don't reach us, who don't read us, like the marginalized communities, is like hire more people who look like me and like her and like who represent all these other marginalized identities, and cover their stories. Like it's pretty simple. Like people try to make it seem like it's mad hard, but like no, hire people and cover them. And then in terms of what you were talking about, kind of like the more like techie side and like how we're distributing things, like it is very much just this like how do we package things and how do we reach audiences on like Facebook and Twitter. That seems to be like primarily where we're getting things. And then there's also been a huge switch to how do we optimize stories so that when you're Googling something, we come up. And like that, again, like I'm not like an audience or like social media person like in my organization, but from what I can see from our audience team, like Google is so important to like getting our stuff out there. Like there are times where half of our readership will be from Google. Or like sometimes it's like 20%, sometimes it's 10, but like there are times where it's like half of like somebody's looking up like testing sites for coronavirus in Texas. And like we're trying to figure out how can we be like at the top of that search. So yeah, that's how we're doing it. But other papers, like you said, are struggling, especially if you, this is like a really huge issue right now. Like if you have always been a print product, like you've always had a like physical newspaper or a magazine or whatever, and you have a website, that's great that you have both. But what people are struggling with in terms of like having enough money is a lot of these places are built to depend mostly on ad revenue. Your ad revenue is mostly coming from your print product. A lot of places may be having that conversation of like, how do we switch like all digital? Because like obviously the print product, printing it costs money. And like a lot of people aren't subscribing. So how do we maybe get rid of that or like transition that if we're then gonna lose the majority of our money? So that's been like a struggle for a lot of places, and like a lot of places want to switch to this like nonprofit model similar to like where I work at, but it's really hard to do when you're depending on this like ad revenue. And now like ads just aren't coming in the same way they have, and they haven't for years, especially with like there's the internet and there's like what's it called, Craigslist. Like Newmark, he like feels so guilty for starting Craigslist and like destroying paper revenue that he's become this like huge philanthropist in the like news industry. Like literally the CUNY journalism school, which is an amazing, a very diverse program, shout out to them, and more affordable than a lot. He gave them so much money that they like named the school after him. Like he's huge now because he's like, fuck, like I really fucked them over. I mean, I can't speak for him, but that's my like view of like what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary because it's sort of like Blockbuster. Blockbuster never saw the transition to streaming, and they didn't capitalize, and therefore,
Mm-hmm.
they're old news.
Exactly.
But pun intended. But speaking on, I did not plan that. It just came. But just speaking on this, it's interesting that they're all freaking out because it's sort of like what do you do? Because this transition of like news has sort of lost its credibility with these additional streams of outlets of where people can get their news, because anybody can tell you something, and it's a lot more biased. They don't have to have that integrity that reporters and journalists have in terms of citing a source and things of that nature. So because there's been a lot more not credible people posing as news people and journalists, the whole category of authentic journalism has been lowered, and it's continuing to lower, and it's almost like what's going to be the end point, as a journalist. What's your, I guess, one of your goals, as a journalist? Like, how far do you want to take it, if you know?
Oof, I don't know. Like literally, so when like I don't even know how long I want to stay in journalism, if I'm like fully honest. Like of course I love what I do. I think it's a privilege to be able to like tell people stories and like have them trust me to do that, and to be able to shape the way like mainstream outlets cover the communities that I like most care about. But it's so hard to be a journalist, especially to be a Black journalist or to be a Latina. Like I'm Dominican, y'all, in case I didn't say that already. But yeah, to be a Black journalist right now is really, really hard, and especially with when like the George Floyd stuff started happening when he was killed at the hands of police. Like that week, I literally was thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I can like stay in an industry that so often doesn't care about us, that doesn't cover our stories in a way that is humane, like that I need to feel the burden, even if no one's putting it on me, like feel the burden of like, oh, I need to like be aware of like how we're covering things and like bring up issues. Like I'm a reporter, like I shouldn't have to be doing all this just because I'm like one of the few Black people or like people of color. Like, yeah, so like I don't know what my next step is. Like I've especially during that week where I was feeling very like, oh, this industry doesn't care about me and I have to do all this stuff to like make it better. I was having a little bit of an existential crisis about like my career, and I was like, well, maybe I can like go into PR and like I'll still be dealing with the same bullshit but with more money and better hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what my next step is. I know that for now I do want to stay in journalism. I do still want to be a reporter because like what I can do, I can't, like, as we've spoken about, like I can't tell you my views. I can't like have a voice. I can't have like Stacy Fernandez's opinions and voice like out there in a fully authentic way because I cover the news. Like I can't be fully me, and that is frustrating sometimes. But it's also like I'm, even with like my least read story, I'm reaching more people, more communities than I would be as just like Stacy Fernandez who's wanting to like say fuck insert anything on Twitter. So yeah, I don't know what my next step is, but I know that I want to continue to like highlight Black and brown voices and just like all the marginalized communities. Like that is what I want to be doing, and eventually within like a year or two, like I wouldn't want to like still be doing breaking news. Like breaking news is an amazing starting point, and I am so grateful to like have a job. But it's not my path forever. Like breaking news isn't my passion. So yeah, my passion is marginalized people. So that's the next step for me. I don't know what it will look like, but that is the direction that I'm heading towards.
And like what you mentioned, in particular, what resonated with me is that, that feeling of like going out your way. I got to do this to make sure that people are represented, and etc. And you shouldn't have to do that, right? I feel like really, the same thing with protesting and all this stuff. It's like instead of privilege, we have obligations, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, that is such a good way to put it. Like sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. That's basically what I realized, because I was really conflicted because I haven't protested in a while. I think I've been to like one protest in my lifetime, and that's exactly because of the sentiment. Like when I was younger, I didn't protest, like the whole Mike Brown thing. I didn't protest for that because it just felt like I had to. It felt like an obligation, and I didn't want to. Like I didn't want to be there. If I was there, I didn't want to. Like I wasn't happy in that environment. I didn't feel comfortable screaming that my life matters or whatever, because it put me in a place of just reminder, like a constant reminder that of everything that's going on in the Black community and in all communities of marginalized people. So for that, I stayed away from it, and I was sort of numb to a lot of the bullshit that's been going on throughout the years, like with the whole Trayvon Martin incident or whatever. I've just been numb until Ahmaud Arbery. When I saw the Ahmaud Arbery video where he was just jogging and he got shot with a shotgun point blank, that really woke me up. I was like, just for a couple days, the week, I was like, oh shit, that was crazy, because I go jogging every day, every morning, especially during quarantine. And I thank God I'm in New York City, where it's like very diverse, and we have gun laws, and of course there's people with guns, but it's nowhere near the same. But it made me think, like, if I didn't live in the city, I'd have to be moving a lot more cautiously than I am now. And it just reminded me all over again of this can happen really anytime, because George Floyd was like, I don't know if it was after or before when I found out. I know that Ahmaud Arbery was way before. So I think I found out about Ahmaud Arbery before, and then George Floyd came. And I was like, Ahmaud Arbery was like mad young, basically my age, like 23, 24. and George Floyd was a middle-aged man. And that made me realize, I was like, literally any time in my life, like no matter where I am, this could be a factor.
Yep.
And again, I felt obligated to protest and et cetera and things like that. But coronavirus. So I was like, all right, there are other ways to protest and other ways to make an impact for the movement. Like these podcasts where we're just talking and having a discourse. But to your point, it isn't fair that in whatever field you are in, especially now as a Black person or a person of color, you have to go out of your way to educate yourself. You got to have the facts in case you hear some ignorant stuff like, wait a minute, that, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Really, just training ourselves to protect our cause at all times. It's really exhausting, and it affects your mental health and everything like that. Thankfully with me, just talking to different people about it has helped. The YouTube channel has helped because I was also sort of going through anxiety during quarantine. I got laid off because of quarantine, so I was like, things we're picking up, and now it's going back down. And I worked hard just to get to where I was with my job. But luckily for me, I'm very like strong in terms of not that we have to be strong as people of color, but I'm very I'm good at like introspecting and figuring out the problem and figuring out that's not the end of the world, and that I will overcome it and shit like that. And I've had job offers. I just no, I'm big on value. Like I value myself to a certain standard. So anything that's below that, I won't accept. At least for now. I'm not desperate yet. but and I've like changed my priorities to my passion in terms of just focusing on the YouTube stuff. So anything that I don't want to do that takes away from that, really I don't have time for. Now.
What's your goal for your next step outside of like your passion projects?
Yeah, I was working in sales as enterprise development for a software company, and the reason I started with sales is in particular a software company, and it was a startup. The company was called Bright Flag. They help lawyers or law departments basically manage all their cases and shit like that. And they use AI. So I wanted to know how to have a business. So I said a startup because I can just soak in and learn. And with sales, there's negotiating. You talk to different high-level executives. So it was nice, and the pay was great. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and I learned a lot while I was there. So my goal next is maybe do something in sales, but at a probably mid senior level, or switch it up and try marketing. I really like marketing because marketing is very important in businesses. As you just mentioned, like your company relies a lot on the marketing analytics that you get in terms of how to retain an audience, how to get more of an audience, what platforms work the most. So yeah, that's really what I want to get into is marketing or sales.
Gotcha. And then you're still gonna keep doing your like podcast, YouTube K-pop.
Yes, for sure.
Also, okay, this is like a side note, but like, have the K-pop stands come at you at all, like, or are they positive so far?
No. K-pop stands haven't come at me at all. As a matter of fact, it's been the opposite. There's been a lot of love with the K-pop stands. They're so supportive. They're like, hey, react to this. We love your videos. You deserve more views and stuff like that. And it's nice. But I've learned, I don't rely on their love because, there's always a flip side to it. It's cool that they like me and I have a core, fan base and a core following. But, eventually I know that there's gonna be a flip side to it. You know, somebody called me a bitch the other day. It was like my first hate comment. So that really, you know, it kind of made me happy. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, I'm growing. I'm getting there. But I have, as I mentioned to you, I have this story ongoing through my podcast, dictated by the guests, started by me. And it's basically, you just continue on the story with a sentence. So I'm gonna tell you like the last two or three, okay?
Okay.
From where it was, they went outside for a walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a vortex opened up into the unknown. They saw two figures who then offered them a drink. And one of the figures walked out and revealed himself, and it was Bill Cosby. And then and then and then the other figure stepped forward, and it was Cardi B.
Okay.
So it was Cardi B. And then Cardi B said, "Think fast." And a second vortex opened up and sucked Bill Cosby out of there, right? And then the two characters, Rick and what happened? Yeah, the two characters, Rick and Morty, and
Oh, I know this show. Yeah.
yeah, it was hilarious. It just developed into that because the characters weren't named for a while, but the two characters, Rick and Morty, opened up, and Cardi B opened up a second vortex and stepped into it and went on an adventure looking for Bill Cosby. So you could basically say anything you want from then. You could be like, oh, they found Bill Cosby and stabbed him in the tongue, I don't know, or wherever you want to take. They entered a world and whatever happened, it's your part of the story.
I'm like trying to figure out if I want Bill Cosby to still exist at all, or if I want him to have never existed.
Yeah, the funny thing was with the second vortex when Cardi B said "think fast" and sucked Bill Cosby in, was because the person wasn't fucking with Bill Cosby, so she took him out of there.
Okay, wait. So the last part was that they went on an adventure to go find Bill Cosby.
Yes.
Okay, so then Cardi B is like, actually, hold up. And then she has her nails doing like this. She's like, we're not doing this shit. We're not gonna go find fucking rapist ass Bill Cosby. Let's go. And then they like walk back through the portal. Okay, what happens after that? After they walk back through the portal. So they decide to close the portal forever. The portal where Bill Cosby is, literally like nobody can access it. Like Bill Cosby is just in that world forever. And how can I make things worse for Bill? He's in that world forever, dickless and dying. And yeah, so he's just stuck in that world. Uh-huh. And then Cardi, Rick, and Morty. What did they do next? Wait, give me a second. I'm trying to think of something good for Cardi. This is a lot of pressure now because, you know, it's my girl. Like, what if one day she sees this? Uh-huh. So what does Cardi do? Oh, they decide to go back to the Bronx to her abuela's house, and then they're just, you know, chilling, making some tostones and salami and fried cheese with her grandma and little baby Culture. And then dancing bachata. Yeah.
Hey, okay. Okay, I really like that. So Cardi B said, fuck that. We're going to leave Bill Cosby, close the portal forever, and then they go to the abuela's house.
And dying.
Dickless and dying forever. And then they all go to Cardi B's abuelita's house in the Bronx where they have some tostones and salami and dance bachata with Culture.
Yes.
Okay, great. I love that story. Getting Bill Cosby out of there. We're not having him in 2020. Okay. See, we did end on a happy note. Okay, so Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. It was a
Of course. Thank
dope
you so
conversation.
much.
Yeah, it was a dope conversation. Really expected, nothing less. If you want to be back on, I'm looking forward to having you in the future and, knowing your perspective then and seeing where you are.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for my first podcast experience ever.
Of course.